it's your host, Ashley Yudkovic of Chronic Convos, and I am joined by my co-host.
Emmanuel Sessignon.
Yay! Yeah, it's been a minute since Emmanuel's been on with us, but we're so happy he could join us today because today is a very special episode for a lot of reasons. But we're also joined by a very special guest, Ali DiGiacomo. The funny part of this, and I said that right?
You
Ali?
did.
Okay, all right. I forgot to practice the first time, and then I asked again, and then I'm like, oh my God, I just said it wrong. Okay, but glad I said it right. Okay.
You got it.
So funny story. Emmanuel's like, hey Ash, I have I have somebody that wants to get involved and would really like to be interviewed. I'm like, oh great, who is it? And he's like, her name's Ali. She has a lot of followers on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm like, well, who is it? And so then when I looked her up on Instagram, I'm like, oh my God, I know her. And he's like friends. And I'm like, well, we'll become friends, but not that there's any pressure to become friends, but we'll get there one day. But no, I've been following her for a long time and her journey with everything, and she's so inspirational. She's the reason why all of a sudden I've started to video me injecting myself with my biologics monthly, because that's one of the things that she does and has been very brave like that and everything. Anyways, I'm talking too much, but I told Emmanuel, I'm like, I'm so excited that we finally get to meet in person, or well, Zoom.
In person, yeah.
Yeah.
This is in person.
Exactly.
Person online.
Exactly. But Ali and I have become friends because I just always also sensed that way. I sensed that vibe from her before we started talking, that you're just a very real person and just really relatable, and it feels like you've known each other for years type of vibe. So I kind of feel that with Ali now. So again, whether or not she wants to be friends, we're friends.
We are now BFFs. We are okay, this close. Right. Yes, exactly. Very close.
So I wasn't lying at the what I was talking to Emmanuel. Anyways, I always forget to do this, and especially with Emmanuel here looking at me to make sure I say the right thing. Make sure for our listeners and our viewers to please like and subscribe on Spotify. We just started doing this on Apple Music as well, and then or Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts, I think is what it's called, and our YouTube channel. So, or you could find us at chronic.convos on Instagram. But I'm talking a lot. So, Ali, where can our viewers and followers find you if they're unfamiliar with you? Which, guys, you are in for a real treat. So.
Oh, first of all, Ashley, thank you for that introduction. Oh my gosh. And Emmanuel, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. So my Instagram and TikTok are the same. They're at Another Day with RA. So RA is rheumatoid arthritis. So Another Day with RA on both Instagram and TikTok. And then my website is anotherdaywithra.com.
Love it. Yeah. So, and another thing that Ali, Emmanuel, and I were talking about right before we started recording was, and I didn't even know this, that it's Disability Pride Month. So it's a very special episode for that reason too, because what better way to get this started than, with someone, Ali, like you, who has RA, but you've also are a personal trainer. You have so many different things that you're involved in, and then you're also, I forgot to tell you, you're also my first RA warrior that I've been having on our podcast. So that makes it, again, like I said, it was special.
Wow.
You're special, but it's really special in a lot of different ways. So
this is exciting. Yes.
Yes.
And that's why I reached out too, because like Ashley said, there's so many different things that you're doing for this cause. And I think that's really important, because a lot of people just have one thing, but you're kind of helping out in multiple different ways, because we need help in multiple different ways. So it's good that we have people like you doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. And cheers to Disability Pride. That's so exciting.
I know, exactly. And I did not know about that. It comes right after Pride Month. So there was a part of me that thought actually that it was a way of mending the two. And for some influencers, I've actually on Instagram, because that's where I found out about it, for some people that I follow, apparently it is to show, pride in your disability, but it's also the pride part is to show that it doesn't discriminate on
Mm-hmm.
who, gets it. Depending, so it doesn't matter sexuality wise,
Mm.
religion, race, socioeconomic status.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter any of those things. Um, so, um, and I didn't realize that. So it's really
Yeah.
cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
happy Disability Pride Month. So I guess Allie, we'll get started into your story. So I guess start from the beginning, and we'll just go from there because you have a really interesting story. You and I were talking a little bit offline. So yeah, so take it away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Allie again, and I'm gonna be 31 in 3 days on July 4th. So I'm like,
Oh,
how
that's
old am
right.
I?
It's your birthday coming up. Yes, happy
Yes.
birthday. And
Thank you.
America celebrates your birthday. It's
Yes.
amazing. Love it.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, so I turned 31 soon. I say that because I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 15. So back then we called it juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, but now it's juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So I was diagnosed at the age of 15. I was in boarding school at the time. My parents were overseas in Saudi Arabia, and I was trying to go to university for swimming. So I was a swimmer, and I had done two Junior Olympics swimming competitions. And so I was really competitive as a teenager. And one day I couldn't keep myself above water, which was very unusual for a really fantastic swimmer. So when I got out of the pool, my right knee was 3 times its size. So of course, everybody thought injury, like a sport injury, but it's very difficult to get injured in swimming.
right,
Unless you like hit your arm on the wall, there's really nothing you can do.
right. But
So
as a
whenever,
competitive swimmer, you're probably doing laps or something,
yeah,
right?
you're
So,
doing laps. Yeah.
or
And I would think
butterfly or whatever in a lane. So
in a
yeah, it's
lane.
not like you're
Yeah.
hitting the wall a million times, even if you mainly scratch it, but you're trained not to, right?
You're
Just
trained
go.
not to.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And we were also playing water polo. And so they were like, well, maybe she got like kicked in the leg, but I didn't. So I was like, I don't know what injury this is. So I get out of the pool and I'm like, okay, my knee is 3 times its size. So after my first knee draining, the minute the doctor did my knee draining, so my knee aspiration, so that's basically just putting in a huge needle and taking the fluid out, the doctor was like, this looks like rheumatoid arthritis, which is not usually what doctors are supposed to do, but that's what he said. And we were like, okay. So we did MRIs, and it turned out I had a big mass behind my kneecap. And so they were like, oh, you have like a tumor in your knee. So we need to get in there and get it out. So when I went home to Saudi Arabia, I had my first arthroscopic knee surgery, and the surgeon said that when he was in there, he said that my joint looked like that of a 65-year-old, and I was 15. And he was like, you have juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, which is now juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So idiopathic, not knowing where it comes from, because nobody in my family has it. I'm the only one,
Oh,
which is
same
really
here. Well,
interesting.
we'll get
Yeah.
into that. I am the only one with all my issues. Okay, cool.
Yes, yeah, and that's crazy because you're my first friend that I've met that you're the only one, because all of my friends, like their parents have it, grandparents, somebody has it, but I'm the only one. So crazy. So yeah,
I
so
just realized
after
we have matching bracelets.
we
Sorry.
do, I saw it too when you put
Okay.
when you put your hand up. I was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, we have
Totally.
matching
Yeah.
BFFs,
Sorry.
okay,
Keep going.
BFFs.
Sorry, Emmanuel. We need a
No,
matching
Emmanuel, we'll get you one too.
bracelet.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
Um,
one day.
Exactly.
So cute. So yeah, so then after that, I didn't really think much anything of it because I didn't have to go on medication. I went on steroids for a while and I had to get my knee drained again while I was in school, but I didn't have to go on medications right away. The surgery really helped. And the surgeon was like, you're going to be okay for about 6 years, which is crazy because 6 years later it came back. However, when I went back to boarding school, I didn't tell anybody I had an autoimmune disease. I, for some reason, kept it a secret, and I don't know why. But like, I was really sick for a while, and I had to take some time off doing sports. And people were like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Oh, I had an injury." And I just like didn't explain like everything that has to go with an autoimmune disease. And like I was going to the hospital randomly being sick. And at that point I was 15, 16. I didn't even know much about an autoimmune disease, let alone RA. I didn't know anything. I didn't have, the internet wasn't what it is now. And I didn't have social media. So I couldn't connect with anybody. So I kept it to myself for the longest time. 6 years later, the doctor was right. It came back, and it came back with like a vengeance. Like it was rough. I went 7 weeks not being able to walk. I was in my first job at a university and I had to quit because I couldn't walk. And I tried to hide it. And I'll never forget, my coworker was like, "You better hide that or they're going to fire you." And I was like, "Oh my God." And it was my first job out of uni. So I was very nervous, and I was a production assistant on a television show. So I tried to hide it, but you can't really hide limping. It's not easy. And I remember the producer was like, "Ali, I could see your knee through your skinny jeans." This was back in like 2015. I was wearing skinny jeans.
Right.
She's like, "I can see your knee through your skinny jeans. Like it is huge. Something's wrong." So I ended up having to leave that job, and I went 7 weeks, and every week they drained my knee. And sorry, my cat's coming over. Come here so I can take your bells off.
My dogs are in the background, so if you hear that, yeah.
Yeah, let me just take his collar off.
That's okay.
He's going to join us.
So we don't mind the noise. It's okay.
Yes. So I was like, okay. So I got my knee drained every week for 7 weeks, and I visited tons of doctors because I was in denial. Ashley and Emmanuel, I'm sure you guys know this stage. I was in denial that I had RA because I was so young, and it was only in one knee. And so I was like, I don't believe I have RA. So I visited doctors all over the East Coast because I was in uni in Florida, and I was going home. Well, not my home, but I was going to visit family in Philly and Jersey and New York. So I
represent Emmanuel, right? Philly.
Yeah.
Yes, I have family in Philly. So I went to where was it? I forget the name, but it was a really reputable place for orthopedic surgeons in Pennsylvania. Starts with a B. But I went there, and they drained my knee, and they were like, "You can't be getting your knee drained every week. This is really dangerous. You should start medication." So
I was gonna say, getting it done every week, like
Every
I would
week.
finally be like, okay, I can't keep doing this.
Yes.
That has never worked for me. I think I've only had to do draining once because I'm just like, I'm not gonna torture
It's painful.
myself. Yeah. And
It's not fun.
yeah, and even like getting cortisone shots, they don't even work for me.
They don't.
And I know my doctors always want to try that because, for insurance and stuff, they never work for me. So it's like, why
do
go
it?
through that pain? And right now where I do need them, they're very, very tiny joints, and
Yeah.
like it hurts so badly. Like the
It
lidocaine
does.
does nothing, but wow, what a
It does
warrior already
nothing.
with your story. Jeez.
And they
Yeah.
also gave me cortisone each time they drained it. So I got cortisone 7 times in a row. And you're not supposed to like have that, right? Yeah. So I've had 16 cortisone injections. No, probably 16, 17, like 18 total. And so by the 7th week, my doctor in Florida was like, I refuse to drain your knee again. Like I'll do it today, but because it kept coming back, like my knee kept filling with fluid every single week. And she was like, "You need to start a drug called methotrexate." And I was like, "Oh, let's just do it." And that's actually the day I got this cat. He's my little support cat. But the day I got him, so I remember January 18th of 2016, I started methotrexate tablets. And
I didn't know it came in an oral form. I thought it was only injection.
yes, oral.
Okay.
And I went on the highest dose that RA patients go on, which is 25 milligrams. And starting off with 25 again is not too fun, but the internet wasn't the way it was back then. Even in 2016, like I had social media, but not for like any of this. So
Right.
yeah, so I started methotrexate. I went through all the symptoms of nausea, hangover, brain fog. I ended up quitting my job, so luckily I didn't have to do too much there. I was unemployed, but however, my mom was in town visiting, so she helped take care of me, thank goodness. And I was really hard because it was right out of university. When you get out of school, you want to start your job, you want to start your career, you get really excited. And I was flaring, and I was just at home sick in bed. Like my mom would have to help me to the bathroom. Like it was just so bad with my knee. And my boyfriend bought me a cane. I remember Star Wars had just come out, like the first one after, since the 80s.
Right,
So we
right,
were
right.
yes. And we were so excited to go to Star Wars. And I remember we had to go to CVS to get a cane before we got there. And I didn't have a handicap sticker. So we had to park super far. My boyfriend carried me to the theater. And then there were steps in there. And we were like,
Oh
shit. So he had to
no.
help carry me up the steps. And then it was a packed theater and there were no disability seats available, no handicap seats. So I had to sit in the middle and I couldn't make it to the bathroom and I was on my cane. And sometimes if you've ever used disability aids, canes kind of suck. Like they're not
I
that
hate it.
great. They're,
I have to use it in intermittently now, but
yeah.
I've been on one for a very long time because I had a knee replacement in December.
Yeah.
And
So,
I
you
got one at
know,
CVS too. I wish I could bedazzle it more than I have. I just got a cool like handle
yes, bedazzling
pad,
it.
but like yeah, I wish I
Yeah.
could bedazzle it more. But
They're, yeah, they're
there's
kind of hard to use.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they're not fun, and
Mm-mm.
um yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of those or walkers really, but
Yeah, it's just it's
yeah.
hard and walkers are big and bulky and you can't get up the steps. So I ended up using crutches for a long time because I was
Oh
like,
yeah, that's another one I don't like, but yeah, I
yeah,
mean, if you
yeah.
have to,
And it
you have
caused
to.
yeah. And honestly, like the reason I have chest pain, and I'll get into that in a second, I've used like a crutch for so long on this side that I'm wondering like if that had anything to do with it. I might have
Oh,
caused nerve damage. So yeah,
possibly. Even with
yeah. So it
pads, it's really hard to like, because I have pads on it too.
yeah.
Just because I have also fibromyalgia and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know, I've got a lot of stuff in this area too. And I was telling you offline, I have the costochondritis.
Yeah, and that
So
does not help.
yeah, so it hurts so badly, even with pads.
It does. It just it
Yeah,
digs in. And
right.
so yeah, and so during this time when my RA was coming back, I ended up getting chest pain and I had to rush to the ER multiple times and they couldn't figure out what it was. They were like, it's not your heart, but we don't know what it is. And so I've had it for 10 years now, going on 11 years. And to this day, we still don't know what it is. We think it's nerve damage. They can't say if it's RA or a different autoimmune disease. So I also deal with that as well. So during this time, it was very chaotic, very lonely. I felt like I was the only one on this earth dealing with RA, dealing with these symptoms, dealing with feeling just isolated and not understanding how to navigate it because at this time, like doctors still to this day don't really give you enough resources. So I would join like Facebook groups and it was a bunch of like 90-year-old women that would tell me I'm going to die because of the medication I'm on. She was like, the first thing they said to me was, my brother died on methotrexate. And I was like,
Whoa.
how old was your brother? And she was like 96. I'm like, okay, well then that's why. Like, ma'am, this is not
Most,
helpful,
right.
Yeah.
right?
Most
Ugh,
He
likely there
died
were
from being 96.
96, like
I
a
yeah, I
know.
was gonna
please.
say,
Yeah.
because I've done end of life hospice, and usually methotrexate, it's very rare to die
Give it
from
to
those
elderly people.
medications. So, Norm, I bet there was something else going on. It
Yeah.
happened he was on methotrexate, but yeah, when you don't have very many people to relate to, that's not very reassuring.
No. And the first thing they said to me was that, and I was like, that's it. I'm out. I'm not doing this. And so I was like, there are no support groups for me. And then this was the time when the nurses were trying to get me to do methotrexate injections. And I was just too afraid at that time. And I didn't have enough resources or people that I knew. So I decided not to do it when in reality I really should have because the symptoms were so bad. But
And
fast
I
forward,
mean, you got a needle in your knee. I would think that that would
you
have,
would think.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's
But
okay.
it was
And I'm not judging. Like
no,
I
no, no, no. You would think like
yeah,
because I had the aspirated so much, but honestly, it was because like the people around me, my friends, including my partner, even really weren't on board with this. Like I think when people see you start to inject yourself, they think, okay, that's only for like really sick people.
or
You don't
like
need to
people
be
with
there.
diabetes or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so like
yeah.
he got into my head and my friends got into my head and they were like, you don't need to like inject. Like you have the option to take pills. But now like as a spoonie, you guys know, like I would be like, actually you should inject because it's less side effects than the pill. So if I had like friends like you guys today, I would be, it would be different. Like back then, like I would have been like, I
Right.
have a sense of community. These people injected before. I can get some resources. So whenever people are like nervous to start methotrexate, I'm like, let's chat because I've been on it for so long. I can help.
Right.
So
I remember watching. I haven't watched your videos from the very beginning, but I remember you doing like giving a description every time you were injecting methotrexate, and I know you
mhm.
recently just got off of it. After,
Yes.
I'm sorry to skip ahead, but
No, 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 no. This is
remember
exciting. I
you.
did.
I
Yes.
remember you talking about like what this journey has been for you, and
Hmm.
so because yeah, that I know it's a very strong medication, and I don't know much about it because it's in the same class of meds that I've already tried, and
Mm.
unfortunately And I
And
hate the word failed when you fail
no,
a
no, no, they
biologic.
failed you. You didn't fail
Yeah,
anything.
but I
They
hate
failed
that
you.
in general. I wish,
Yeah.
but I know that's the word that goes around in our community. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I failed like, 9 biologics or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not, I don't know. I
You
wish
didn't
there was
fail
a
anything.
different
They
way.
just weren't effective enough.
Right. And I know they didn't work, but I just wish in our community we would say something like
Yeah,
that
if
in
there's a
the
more
medical
positive way to
field.
say it.
Because again, like you said, this is already isolating enough
Mm-hmm.
as it is. And also it, we're already hard on ourselves as it hard enough
Yep.
on ourselves as it is that, oh my gosh, I'm being, you know, the people in my life, this is probably like really overwhelming for them, and
Mm-hmm.
probably don't want me to talk about it too much.
Yep.
They get like, and I hate the word burden. That's for a whole different reason, but like we're kind
But
of
it's like
burdening
that. We are
them.
burdening them. Yeah,
Like,
that's how
and
it
so
feels.
it's just like to say something like, oh, well, I failed this medication. I just wish
Mm-hmm.
our rhetoric was different in the
Yeah.
community a little
We'll have to
bit.
come
So
up
I
with
don't know. Maybe
something.
you and I can change that somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We'll have
so
to.
go on. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry
yeah.
that at the time you felt like that there wasn't a lot of information. And it's crazy that that was what, 8 years ago? Wait,
Yeah. Yeah, it
no.
was like eight. Yeah, it was about like
Yeah,
8, 9 years ago. Yeah.
not yeah 9 years ago, and it's crazy how much things have kind of changed in terms
Mm-hmm.
of community and everything like that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I had
Like,
a similar journey where again I was the only one, not just out of my friends but in my
hmm
family
yeah.
who was going through this. I don't have anybody to relate to, and so um, it was just really crazy. And then even working in the medical field, it's
Mm-hmm.
funny what the reputation is and what the rhetoric is around that as well. So
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you had a definitely different insight being in like the medical world. And did that help you? I know, like, I'm going to ask you a question. Did it help when you're in the medical world? Like, did you, like, having that knowledge, did that help at all or no?
so I've always advocated for others, and
hmm
when I started getting sick, I didn't realize I would have to advocate for myself so much. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what it taught me. It also taught me that you really have to know your body
Mm-hmm.
and get to know it because you're the one that knows it. And then
Yeah.
that way you can have a more informed conversation with your doctor or other medical professional. It also showed me that there is still that old school thinking because I have several forms of arthritis as well.
Mm-hmm.
And even my colleagues in the ER are like, oh, well, but you're only 35. And it's like, I
Yeah.
wish, and that's something else I forgot to say at the beginning, that I wish age really played a factor in it, but it
It
doesn't. And
doesn't.
I didn't sign up for this or go shopping and be like, yeah, let's add some arthritis, some fibro,
Let's just, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you know,
Raynaud's, let's
yeah,
add the whole menagerie here at
yeah.
35. So it's taught me that, and it's taught me the medical community also has a long way to go in terms of being supportive and not
Yes.
gaslighting us.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Which we all know well. We were talking about this
right,
off podcast. Yeah, like the
right,
being gaslit.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then also, yeah, so it's just really taught me you have to advocate for yourself and you have to
hmm
be very informed. And if and I always do this PSA every episode, but if your doctor is not working out for you, it's
hmm
okay.
Yep.
And I know for some people it takes like 8 months or so long because of their insurance or because of how popular that doctor is to get in to see them.
hmm
And they don't give you the time of day sometimes. But if that doesn't work for you, like it's okay. Find a doctor that does work for you. They're
It's
out
so
there, I
important.
promise you. It took me a long time to find my dream team, as I call them. But,
hmm
you know, um, and they know that I know my body well enough now. So they know if I bring something to my attention or I'm not willing to try something. And I'm pretty open to trying anything because if it'll
hmm
make me feel even 1% better, I'm open to it.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
you have to have that kind of trust relationship. So that was a very long answer to your
No,
question.
but it's so true. Having a relationship with your doctor is so important. I've seen over like 12 different rheumatologists, and
Yeah.
just having that relationship is so important because you feel comfortable. with them. And sorry if a dog is barking in the
That's
background, but you
okay.
feel
No worries. My,
comfortable with
my dogs
them.
are in the background too. Yeah, no worries.
We got cats, we got dogs, we got all animals here, all
Right,
emotional support animals.
right, right.
But yeah, no, it's so important. And I advocate for that as well. Like just clicking with your doctor, because how many appointments have we gone to where we've been nervous and then we're just like, yeah, sure. Yeah, like, oh, it's not that bad. With my doctor who I'm very close with, I'm like, you know what, this is how I feel. And I want to try this. I want to try that. Let's try this. Let's try that. Like just having that connection is so key and so important. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And again, I know it's frustrating to our Spoonie warriors listening to this.
Hmm.
And I know, Emmanuel, you had also some similar experiences when you first got your diagnosis, as you were saying, that people weren't listening to you. And then in your workforce, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that a little bit
I would love to hear,
with that.
Emmanuel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like
Yeah.
it's a little bit different, but I'll still talk about
But
it. And
still,
so,
it
yeah.
falls into line with what we went through, and again, being gaslit, and
Hmm.
and it's important, and I think it's important to remind our listeners and followers too, because again, your story before you share it is a really good reminder again of keep advocating for yourself even in the workforce. And
Hmm.
that's what our organization's all about now, is because people aren't understanding in the workforce. Like you said, you had to unfortunately leave your job, because of your RA, and whether it was due to lack of understanding, or also a mix of the of the medications because they're so strong, or your knee,
Hmm.
just even that mix, it's just like it's hard. And I was telling you offline, Allie, that it's like I don't have a choice right now financially but to
Hmm.
go back into the workforce, and I'm nervous and scared because I don't know if my body's going to be able to handle it,
Yeah.
but it's the best option I have right now. And also, um, if I applied for long-term disability, I'm going to get denied right away. So,
Hmm.
why wait for that? Try that and wait when I know it's going to fail at first.
Yeah.
But sorry, Emmanuel, go on with your story.
Okay. Well, this isn't my interview, but I guess I'll go over it kind of briefly. Yeah, essentially in my case, it wasn't really so much gaslighting as it was just like straight up, they don't care. So, as I maybe kind of explained in the podcast before, I unfortunately was diagnosed with AIDS in 2022. Not very good. It's not exactly what you expect to hear at 24. I've been having like severe pain in my jaw, having like weird infections all over the place, just random stuff. And it was getting really bad. For context, like before this, well, I should say, when this first started, I had no idea I even really had to set up a doctor's appointment. Because I like never had to for any reason. Like I'd never been to a doctor at all.
Mm.
I was perfectly fine,
Lucky.
100% healthy, like
Yeah.
no issues at all. So I didn't even know what the fuck I was doing.
Hmm.
Finally, actually get the appointment, get in there, and the doctor asked me, "Hey, maybe we should test for HIV because you have a lot of fungus in your mouth." I said, "Okay, sure. We'll try it. We'll check it out." And of course, I get the phone call while I'm at work, and I was already feeling really sick, so I knew something was probably wrong. I get the phone call at work. He told me, "Hey, Emmanuel," and they said it in a much more elaborate way. Basically, just told me, "Hey, Emmanuel, you have AIDS." And like at 24, you hear that on the cell phone. I was like, I have what? Like I was like, no, like no, you got the wrong Emmanuel Sessigno. There has to be
Right.
another one. There has to be a lot of Emmanuel Sessignos, right? Somebody else has AIDS, but no, it was me. So I was like very unhappy about that, obviously. And so I, of course, went and told my boss, like, hey, I have AIDS. I need this ability to work remotely, and it just got denied over and over again. It was
And
just,
this
I
was
don't
still
even
on the
know
heels
what the
of
hell was going on. So I talked to him. He was so ignorant about AIDS. He literally thought, well, I told him it wasn't a death sentence. Well, because it could have been at my point, but I told him it's probably not a death sentence. He was like, oh, I didn't know it's not a death sentence. So you thought it was more severe than it really is, but you didn't give me that
And you
accommodation.
still denied
That
me.
doesn't make it. It's like, what? Like, you thought I was like gonna die like that? So yeah,
And this was
funny
so
enough,
on the
he
heels
got the
of
ability to work
COVID.
remotely often because he had stomach aches.
Mm.
So like, yeah, so he got the ability to work from home whenever he wanted to, but I didn't for AIDS. And another employee at the company, one of his favorites or whatever, she also got to work remotely. Or even take a few weeks off because she donated a kidney,
Mm.
and I had to do her work during that time period. So like, this is the type of stuff that they do to people, and so yeah, that's why I definitely want to start this organization because like they just don't care.
Oh my
Even if they
gosh.
know that they can do things a certain way, if they're just used to having people work in person, they'll do that. And then they're going to pick and choose also who's going to get the ability to work remotely, even if you're sick, even
Yeah.
if you're extremely sick. So after that nonsense, oh, sorry, I didn't finish the story yet. I was finishing the story now. I ended up getting fired a few days after they hired a healthy white guy with the same job title. It's like literally days after. And their excuse for doing so was that I worked from home on one particular day when everyone else was doing so without asking particular permission or whatever. The reason I did that is because my boss even was working from home. And you want to know why he was working from home?
Why?
Because he felt sick that day.
No, no,
I swear to Christ, I swear to
no,
Jesus Christ,
no,
he was feeling sick that day.
no,
He had a stomach ache, so he had to work remotely. But me, with the full blown AIDS, I have to work in the office.
no, mm-mm,
Yeah,
mm-mm.
they just the. And to be honest, like I think part of it was like because of insurance, like because my medication costs like 4,000 a month, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Oh
But
no.
yeah, I mean, they were just looking for something.
But
Mm-mm.
Emmanuel, like Allie, this was your first like major job out of
Oh yeah,
college, and
this
then
was
didn't
literally
you?
my dream job.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
didn't
God.
Yes,
you?
it sucks. Because I got for that job, I got to write like TV and radio ads. So
Wow.
that was awesome. I love doing that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I kind of started this and also had the idea to start the podcast and all that because I've kind of done that type of work
Mm-hmm.
before.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Mm-hmm.
it was my dream job. I'd worked for years out of college doing all the random little shitty jobs here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But finally paid my dues, so to speak.
Yep.
I'd had to travel all over the country doing all types of jobs before, and I finally made it to this job.
Mm-hmm.
Finally got to DC where I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
everything I wanted, and then boom,
And
Mm-mm.
comes in.
didn't
And
you come
so
like
it's crazy. And I still, even then, I didn't have to lose my job if they
Yeah.
had cared this much
Mm-hmm.
and just get shit, just giving me some time, just temporarily. And then, like a few months later, I could have been back to work the same way.
Yeah.
Even just a few months, did not want
Yeah.
to do that. Never mind
Mm.
if you have a chronic illness that's going to be there for like years and years and years. Then they
and then
definitely aren't going to
Emmanuel
help you.
didn't you like come freshly out of the hospital still with like like swollen and with blisters
Oh yeah,
like
that
and you
was
had to
that was
show
when
up to
I
work
first
that
asked to
way?
work remotely. That wasn't the firing. That was when I asked to work
Oh
remotely.
my
He
God.
saw clearly there's something pretty wrong
Wrong.
here. That was when I had to go to I had to leave. So before I even knew I had AIDS, I had to leave and go to the emergency room because this infection in my jaw got massive.
Oh my
I had a
God.
10-10 pain, like full pain for like weeks at a time, literally screaming in pain. He already knew this, so he basically because I had to take time off because that he basically threatened to fire me. I told him I had to work remotely. He said, "Oh, we can find another job if you want to do that." Once again, at the time, I didn't know that was completely illegal for him to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been in the court system now for like a year,
Mm.
trying to get that figured out. Which is one of the reasons why we have, I don't know how much you know about it, why we have the Autoimmune Protection Act is something that we want to
That
get
we're
passed
working on, yeah.
because
Yeah.
that law, as opposed to current law where you have to like, I don't want to bore the listeners too much.
I'm curious. I want to know.
Basically, first you have to get, so let me back up. If you commit a normal crime, so I'm like
I
backing
love
up.
when you
You
say
commit
that.
a
Bring it
normal
Emmanuel
back.
says that
crime,
all the time,
like
yeah.
harassment, for example, where you just hit somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? They can just sue you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take you to court, you show evidence, and then the judge figures out what's going on there. It's obvious, right? Just duh. Just commit a crime, you sue them for it.
Yeah.
Not complicated at all, unless it's discrimination. Now, if the thing you're accusing someone of is discrimination of any form of its race, gender, disability, you have to go through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which is a federal agency, and they have to do a whole investigation themselves. And when that sounds good almost, but it's not good because
Mm.
after they finish that investigation, that doesn't mean that they find the company guilty and then the company's punished. That means that now you have the right to sue. So now, after they do this year-long investigation, then you have the ability to sue the company in court.
Oh my
And so then you have
God.
to go through that whole year-long process or years-long process taking up to court. They literally put an extra stumbling block in the path of people who have disabilities or who experience racism or sexism in the workplace
Mm.
intentionally to make things harder.
Yeah. Because then they'll think you forget and you want to get over it.
Because
Yeah.
there's no reason. There's no reason to do it this way.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Mm-mm.
should have an agent. Shit, we should have an agency that investigates these things and punishes companies. But at the very least, let me just sue them
Yeah.
normally. Like,
Hmm.
what the fuck is the problem here? Like, there's
Yeah.
literally no reason for that system to exist. Like, just because they didn't trust black people to tell the truth, because that's what the system's originally made for. Then they didn't trust women either, and they don't trust us disableds either. So,
Mm-mm.
and that's how the system was built, and that's what needs to change. So our law makes it so that the Labor Department directly would look into these issues. So you just make your complaint, and then they investigate it, and then they would just punish the company
Yeah.
if it comes out that they were hurting you,
Hmm.
which is how it should be. At the very least, I'd love to change the law so you can just sue them.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least, like, let
At
me at least
least.
handle it,
Yeah.
please. I
Yeah.
don't. I hate waiting on this agency that doesn't give a fuck about me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why we have that law, and I've talked a lot, even though it's your interview, so I'll shut up now.
No, I love it. No. I want to hear about it. Like I want to help.
Yeah, but I actually want to ask you about something that you
Hmm.
talked about way earlier. Something that kind of like stuck with me. You talked about how you were in boarding school and you had to, or at least you felt the need to hide the fact that you had a disability.
Yeah.
These are people who are your friends,
Hmm.
who are supposed to have your back through everything.
Hmm.
And also, you were extremely talented, I assume, like popular and all that too. And so, why did you feel the need to hide such a thing? Like, what did you think was going to happen? And then on
Yeah.
top of that, what kind of toll does that take on you emotionally? You can't even tell your best friend that you're
Hmm.
going through something so life changing.
Yeah, I always think like, why did I hide it? And I'm wondering if a part of it was I was in denial, like I wanted to pretend it never happened. And I just wanted to, maybe I was trying to convince myself that I didn't have a chronic illness that I was going to have for life. I think that was it. I wanted to pretend that getting diagnosed did not happen. The surgery didn't happen. He didn't say that my joint was 60, I was like 65 years old. So I lied about it and just said I had an injury. And it did take a toll because my swimming career went downhill. I forgot to mention that. It went downhill and I didn't end up going to school for it. My sophomore year, I did fantastic. And then my junior year and senior year, after I got diagnosed, my times just went down. Like, or technically they went up. So I just wasn't good in the pool anymore. And that's when it started to get really hard because I didn't have anyone I could talk about with it. And so most people thought I just had a knee injury. And you can come back from that, well, most usually you can come back from that. But I couldn't, and I was still sick. So I think it was a part of me trying to deny the fact that I have this illness and really trying to convince myself that it was just an injury. But then at the end of my high school career, it was getting hard. And if I ever did tell someone I had arthritis, like I think I told a couple of my friends in Saudi Arabia where I lived that I had it, they would be like, "Oh, but you're so young. That's like an old person's disease." And I was like, "I'm just not going to talk about this because like I don't know anything about it. Like like I was so young and uneducated about it at the time. So I think that was part like me trying to convince myself, and then me not knowing how to go about talking about it. So just ignoring that it was a thing.
So
That
basically, like if you had told, you felt as if telling your friends about it would make it real. That was
Yes.
the real thing in my life.
Yes, yeah, and it's crazy because I'm, as you Ashley, you following me, like I'm such an open book, so it's just crazy that like yeah, I guess it was like it would be real the minute it comes out of my mouth, and I accept the fact that I have it. Because even in college, I didn't accept that I had it, and when I was getting my knee drained every week for 7 weeks, I didn't accept that I had it.
they're
So
kind of going through the motions or
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
I've been through that before, where you're kind of
yeah,
like, okay, I got to do this, and this for this surgery or whatever.
mm-hmm,
Kind of going through the motions. It's a crazy thing.
yeah,
what was I gonna say? You brought something up. I was gonna say it, and I totally forgot what it was.
Brain
Um,
fog.
yeah. What was it? Um, oh, you and I were talking offline about how we now have gotten to that point in our lives where if people aren't receptive to us being vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
that's on them. That's not on
Mm-hmm.
us anymore.
Yeah.
Because you and I were talking about how we both used to be that way, where if somebody was not receptive to us being vulnerable, even though that
Yeah.
was our authentic self, that, I mean, and it's not to say that it doesn't hurt still, but it's not as powerful as it used
Mm-hmm.
to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I was a part of an organization when I first started getting sick back in 2012. It's supposed to be a sisterhood organ. It's kind of like a sorority, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't through college. It was an external organization. And I couldn't travel all of a sudden because I started getting really high fevers and I was
Mm.
really, really sick
Mm.
and had no idea why. And basically, a bunch of the girls who were in this organization decided it would be really nice to kind of cyberbully me
Mm-mm.
on Facebook and tell me that I didn't deserve, because we were traveling all over the state representing our organization and everything, that I didn't deserve the position I was elected to be in and
Mm.
or voted to be into. And I was just looking for sympathy because at that time my lymph nodes were all crazy and swollen,
Mm-hmm.
and my blood work was really crazy. So I had a cancer scare, and I shared
Mm.
that with them. I'm like, I might actually have cancer, and they're like, no, you're lying to us, and you're just looking for sympathy.
Because that's something we want to lie about, right? Like,
Exactly, and I mean, I was just so taken aback. And then after that, they completely alienated me. So I had to drive all over, and I live in California, by the way. I don't think I ever shared that with you, but I I ended up having to travel to a lot of these things on my own, like all the way down to the most southern point of California to the most northern point of California
oh
by
my
myself
God.
at times because these girls just thought I was lying to them about something. And so I can kind of relate, even though that's more extreme than what you went through. But I've also can't recall lately with like my group of friends, even though the groups of friends that have changed, um, that they didn't believe me except for that one instance that I had.
That's crazy.
And for a while, so that kind of tarnished my wanting to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's always been hard to be, or I've always been a vulnerable person and just an empathic person, and it hasn't always been receptive. And I'm like, okay, why? Like, and people are like, you're too nice and you're too empathic, but it's like, well, I don't know any other way to be. Like, that's just who I am. And so it's like, and then when I got really sick and started getting diagnosis after diagnosis, people would say, there's no way you have this many diagnoses. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, actually, now that I know a lot about autoimmune issues, if you have one, chances are you're gonna have more than one. It's just gonna happen that way. And I know, Emmanuel, you said you don't have a lot of people in your family who have autoimmune issues. I know you also did this because you got the organization started based on what your mom's journey was like with. I always get the acronym wrong. CRPS,
Oh yeah,
CPRPS,
you got it.
CRPS. Okay, I
Yeah,
always
you've
I
never
always
gotten it
push the R
wrong.
and the P. Yeah. Okay. Um, right. You said besides her, there's not really a lot of people in your family
No.
with
My
different issues.
sister, well, my adopted sister, has long COVID. That's
Oh, I
different.
didn't know that. Okay.
But yeah, no one in my family that I know of has any autoimmune diseases. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think
so
it's just
it's
my mom.
crazy. And I know you were saying that yours is an it's an immunodeficiency disorder, not an
Yeah.
autoimmune disorder. I don't know if you want to talk about the difference with that or not, because people might not know what that is. If you want
Oh
to talk about
well, well, technically they're opposites. An autoimmune disease when your immune system attacks your body. So your immune system attacks your lungs or your thyroid or so on and or your joints, so on and so forth. Immunodeficiency virus is when your immune system's too weak, and so essentially it can't fight off infections. So I guess the way I usually say it is that autoimmune diseases are when your immune system's too strong, it starts hurting your own body. Immunodeficiency viruses are when your immune system's too weak and your body can't defend itself.
It's actually a really good explanation, actually.
Yeah, that was
I would
really
never
good.
thought of it that way. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
No,
But yeah,
I'm
not an
glad you
autoimmune
did.
disease though. I was completely wrong when I first started the organization, technically.
And
'Cause I thought that A and AIDS, like, it has to be autoimmune, right?
You would
Wrong.
think, yeah.
well, but I told you when the only education, and I know we're working on the education side for our organization as well to get materials and to get the education about autoimmune issues in K through 12 as well as college. Allie, in case you didn't know, we're working on an education part of this too. But the only autoimmune issue, if you will, that we were taught about was AIDS and HIV in school, and it was kind of presented to, at least to me, as an autoimmune issue,
Mm,
and just have safe sex and you're good. Like that was kind of like
it's like
how it was
it.
presented, and that's the only education. And cancer,
Hmm.
otherwise you're not taught about arthritis, you're not taught about anything that can happen even when you're a juvenile.
Hmm.
And I know, Allie, it's interesting. When you got, so were you accepting of the diagnosis when you were like, oh, you have, or you just pretended you didn't have the diagnosis when they're like, oh, this is juvenile idiopathic rheumatoid arthritis?
Yeah, I think because I was so young, I didn't think too seriously of it. I thought it would just be something that was like fixed with surgery. And I thought, oh, maybe in 6 years I'll just have surgery again and it will go away like it did the first time. So I think because it went away and I was okay just doing steroids for a couple of months and getting my knee drained one more time, I think I was just like, I'm not going to read about this. I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to look at the internet because it's just going to go away and it's not going to be a lifelong thing. And in my brain, when I was a teenager, and my mom probably explained more about what it is to me, and I probably just wasn't listening. When you're 15,
Right.
and so and yeah, and I probably just didn't want to talk about it. And so I think with that, I was just like, I didn't realize that rheumatoid arthritis can affect your whole body and not just your joints. See, in my brain, I thought it was just my knee. Like, I thought my knee was my
Right.
only problem. I didn't
Right.
realize all the other things that would come with it until
Right.
I got older, until it came back
Right.
when I was 21. And then I was like, well, shit, this is not just my knee.
Right. Right. And I have to praise your doctors though, because you're the first guest I've had on our podcast, or we've had on our podcast, that the doctors didn't misdiagnose, and
Mm,
they knew right, and they didn't delay treatment
yep.
either.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I've had so many people, and I'm one of those, where it's been like a 20-year journey trying to
Yeah.
figure out what's wrong with me, basically.
Yeah. I
And
was lucky with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I find that, so like I really have to, like commend your doctors.
Hmm.
Um, this is me just throwing this out here, and I don't even know, because I would have to read up on it, but I don't even know if this could be a connection. But with your nerve issues you were talking about, and you said that, and you were talking offline saying that it feels like you're having a heart attack daily.
Yes. Hmm. Hmm.
I'm wondering, and that's horrible, by the way. I can't even imagine the anxiety as
Yes.
well as the pain you must feel going through that daily.
Hmm.
And I'm so sorry that you
Thank
have
you.
to experience that. I'm wondering if that has anything to do with the amount of cortisone shots that you are getting so many times.
Interesting. Yeah. I
It
never
just
thought
kind
about
of popped
that.
in my head. And again, there may be no connection, but just maybe
Mm.
something to look into, because, like you said, we're not supposed to get so many
Yep.
cortisone shots.
Yep. You're
Um,
right.
So I don't know if there's a connection, but maybe something to look into. And
Something to look into.
your rheumatologist or your neurologist, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, that's great.
Again,
That's why I love
some
this
doctor.
community. Yeah. Like I love talking it out because you learn like all these new things. Like Emmanuel, you've taught me so much. Like Ashley, that's a great insight. Like that's why I love this community and discussing it because you just learn so much.
Right. And again, it may not even be connected, but it's an avenue to look down.
Yeah.
Because I'm convinced like some of the medications I've been on long term like have done something to me. I don't know what they've done to me yet, but I'm sure there's some connection there. Um,
Yeah.
and just like how all of a sudden, I was telling you, just back in May, I was diagnosed with Crohn's. Like that came out of nowhere, and I was also just. You have Crohn's as well?
No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, it comes out of nowhere. Like, you're
Oh
like,
yeah,
what is this? Like, you understand, you finally have connected or like accepted the fact you have one thing, and then something else comes out of nowhere, and you're like,
pretty
why?
much, yeah.
Why?
And then I told you, and then like 2 weeks later, like 3 weeks later, I was brought into the emergency room and then hospitalized for what they thought was a stroke, but ended up being a really bad migraine. Um, you know, it's um, it's crazy. Um, to go through all of that. But I'm convinced too that because now with ankylosing spondylitis, I'm technically under the RA umbrella, and I just got diagnosed with that last year. But this whole time, I knew there was something bigger than what they were telling me. They're like, oh, it's just degenerative disc disease, or you have a little bit of stenosis, and but I have 6 herniated discs um, in my back, and so but my blood work so far is not showing that it's RA, but I'm convinced I do have a form of RA, and I just haven't. It hasn't. Um, it hasn't. What did my rheumatologist say? It hasn't revealed itself yet. Because
Yeah.
when she and my GI doctor confirmed my Crohn's diagnosis, they're like, "Oh, your body's revealing itself," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I'm 35." I'm like, "Great. What else do I have to look forward to?"
Exactly.
And I already
Yeah.
know I need my other knee replaced eventually, my other hip replaced eventually, because I've had one of each replaced already.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, just like you, when you're first diagnosed with it, like my, um, my first diagnosis with my high fevers. So I learned I had something that's genetic, but again, apparently nobody in my family has it. Like you were saying, you are the first person. You're also
Yeah.
the first person I've met who like nobody in their family has what they have.
Hmm.
I have something called familial Mediterranean fever. So, because I come from Greek heritage, and that's why I was having fevers of 104.6, um, a lot.
Damn.
But I was having fevers when I was really young. And so
Mm.
I'm wondering if I've had this whole time, because you can get diagnosed as a child too. But I would
Mm.
get really high fevers and double ear infections as a child. My
Mm.
parents even told me, they're like, in a joking way, they're like, still mad to this day that they had to cancel a trip. Like, I guess we were in Tennessee or something, and I was like a baby at the time, and they couldn't go on this boat or something because I had a really high fever.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm also convinced some of this stuff, some of the arthritis I have was, it had appeared in childhood as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like maybe I did have juvenile arthritis, because looking back, I like could never I wasn't very athletic, and when I tried to be, it was very hard for me.
Hmm. Makes
They
sense.
but they would always say, oh well, you're a little overweight, and that was also the thing. That was I used to be 100 pounds heavier in high school and in college, um, and all my doctors would always say, oh, well, it's because you are overweight. And so any
Always.
symptom
Yeah.
I had, even if it was a cold, you're overweight. So
Oh my
I think
God.
that
Mhm.
also, delayed diagnosing and everything. But going back to what I was saying with the FMF diagnosis, and then my official diagnosis after I lost 100 pounds, I had weight loss surgery in 2014. I lost 100 pounds.
Oh wow.
6 months later, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, an osteoarthritis in one of my knees. And I cried for a week straight because I thought my life was over. I knew
Mm-hmm.
it was a lifelong thing, but I also had a family friend that had fibromyalgia, and they would, and I feel bad because I always talk about this probably on every episode, but they're very negative about it and
Mm.
talk about their pain,
Yeah.
and how bad it is, and oh my god, just, and I thought, oh my god, that's what I'm gonna turn into. And then after I
Yeah.
was done crying for like a week straight, I realized, wait a second, this is about attitude, and
Yes.
I'm gonna choose to be positive as I can. And I don't know
Yeah.
what this journey is going to look like, but we'll buckle up and figure it out, I guess, as it
Yeah.
goes along. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, this is the only thing I'm going to be, diagnosed with. And of course, maybe we'll have to take care of my knee, and then I'll be able to move on my merry way. And of course, that's not what happened. But
It's a roller coaster.
you're
You
right,
just got to make the
exactly.
best of it.
Right, but exactly. So going from not being so open to now being so open on social media, like what made you want to do that? How did you I guess transition to that part of it?
Yeah, so when I had to, so I was on methotrexate and then I took myself off of it. I don't know if you've ever been on, anybody listening has been on methotrexate, you probably know you want to go off of it. So I took myself off of it, even though my doctors were like, don't do it. And my
Right.
RA came back again, and I had to get my knee drained and then more cortisone, all the usual. And
And when was this? I'm sorry.
this was in like 20, I want to say 17 or 20,
Okay.
yeah, like 2017. I was on it for like a year and a half, and I was like, I want to try to go off of it because I was like, I feel good, you know? And that's, you feel good because the meds are making you feel good. So,
Right, right, right.
yeah. So I was like, oh, let me go off of it. And I was so nervous about starting methotrexate again. And this time I had a job, but it was an office job. So I went to my boss and I'm like, I'm probably going to feel sick for the next like 3 months. And she was like, okay, like, what do you need? Blah, blah, blah. And she was really like, helpful and supportive with that.
That's good.
So, she was even like, do you need disability? I was like, no, no, no. I'm just going to be nauseous for these 2 days after I take it. I'm going to try to take it on Friday. So I have the weekend, all this stuff. And I just felt so upset and so emotional about having to start this medication again that I was like, that's it. I can't do this alone. Like, I cannot, I crave like connection with somebody that gets it. Like, I need to talk to somebody who has been on methotrexate and gets it, because this is just too difficult. Like, I don't want to do this alone. I don't want to be a burden. Like, I was so negative in my journey, and my friends and my partner would bring that up. And I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, I was negative. I really was. Like, it's hard to be positive when you're in pain all the time and you can't walk.
Sure, right,
It's, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I just crave connection. So I started my Instagram page, and I was like, my first post was, I'm starting methotrexate again. And I did hashtag methotrexate, and it just went from there. And I finally met people who had RA, who were my age and who were on methotrexate. And I connected, and it just escalated from there. I went from knowing no one to knowing thousands of people with RA and who were young adults.
Right. That's amazing. That
Yep.
and yeah, it's been a crazy journey for me too, just connecting with different people also.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they have what I have or not, I'm just
Yeah.
looking to connect with people who just understand that you're
Yeah.
never going to feel 100% no matter what we do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
There
And
was
navigating
somebody,
life.
I forgot who it was, but I took a picture of their Instagram because I'm hoping I can have them on as a guest, so I remember to reach out to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they said they said something really interesting, and I'm like, that's an interesting way of putting it, that they lived a double life, because they were showing
Oh.
the way that how we can be having such a great time. And I think it showed her traveling and on the beach with her partner, something like that, and then it showed her really sick in bed,
Mm-hmm.
and it said, this is my double life. And I'm like, that's a really interesting
That's
way
interesting.
of
Yeah.
putting it. And I guess it's true in a way, because my family and friends have been really supportive, but some of them will sometimes say, we forget that you're sick
Yeah.
because you hide it so well.
Mm-hmm.
And like, why don't you talk about it more with us? And I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
don't want it to be the highlight of our conversation. And the
Yeah.
fact that I'm able to join this event, like, it took a long time to get ready to with this event and a lot of
Yeah.
energy, but I want to enjoy the event.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
still want to enjoy life as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're the same way. And I've seen your posts about that too. So are your friends and your partner more accepting now, or
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Now that I started bringing awareness online, people understand it more. And like I had friends in back home that were like, "We had no idea you had this and that you were struggling with this. None of us knew." And I was like, "Yeah." So, and it's great because now everybody understands it completely. Like everybody in my circle who watches my Instagram knows how I'm feeling, knows what methotrexate is, knows what I can and can't do sometimes. And so because I'm so open on Instagram, everybody in my circle and my family understands it now. And it's so nice. It's been to the point where I've had friends on my DM say, I'm going to send your profile to my family so they understand. Like they can watch you and see how you feel every day. So that's why I like to post the good and the bad. Like,
right?
I know a lot of like people say that, but I don't want to like highlight the bad. I don't want to scare people, but it's balance. And so I tried to show that balance, like especially being a personal trainer. I'm like, fitness doesn't look like that for everybody. Like when people think fitness, they think like barbell snatches, like they think crazy stuff, like putting barbells overhead. When really you could just be in your chair and work out. Like it's that it can be that different. So it's nice that I strive to show the difference in our life, and we are very good actors. People won't know we're sick on the outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I
And
actually wanted to ask you, kind of going off of that, really, I guess, tell us a little bit, and sorry if it's a little bit off topic, tell us a little bit more about your just activism work in general and like how you got started with your Instagram page and your TikTok especially, and
Yeah.
kind of like how you got into that, your favorite part of it. Tell us everything.
Yeah. So when I was bringing awareness, so I started my Instagram to connect with people. And then, of course, like everybody, I actually started my TikTok in 2019. So not during COVID, but I was doing my morning routine on TikTok. And like I like to dance. So I would like do it's kind of like I do first sips on Instagram right now where I have my first sip of coffee. I was doing like a dance every time I drink pre workout. But I started to post silly videos on TikTok and Instagram about what I'm dealing with because it's how I would cope. So every time I was in pain, I would make a really silly video about being in said pain or the challenges that spoonies go through. So chronically ill people go through. So I would post like a silly TikTok me waiting at the doctor or how I feel being on methotrexate or how I feel being on this type of immunosuppressant. And it kind of just took off from there. And my TikTok I gained a lot of followers based off one injection video that I did where I was just crying, and I didn't do it for likes. Like honestly, I was going through depression at the time, and I had to inject. And it was a really hard night for me depression wise. And I was like, the last thing I want to do is inject right now. Like, that's not what I want to do.
Mm.
And so I just threw my camera on and I was like, this is what it's like. This is the life of a chronic illness person. And then that blew up and people were like, what is she doing? What is that like lightsaber in her hand? Because I was using an auto injector for my Enbrel and that thing is
lightsaber.
huge. Yeah. So I called it a lightsaber and it got like 15,000 comments and people were like, what is that? Yeah, it got more than 15. It got 15 million views. That's what it was. And yeah. And
That's like a lot.
that's a lot. Yeah. So it had a ton of comments and everybody was like, what is she doing? Like, why is she injecting herself? She doesn't look sick and all these questions. And I was like, I'm going to bring awareness about this. Like, people don't realize that you can be young and have arthritis. And that's when the activism started. And also I would have so many people in my DMs saying that they're getting gaslit and that their doctors aren't listening. And I was like, it is time to just stand up for ourselves and also empower others to be confident at the doctor's office and be confident about being your own advocate. And that's kind of how my TikTok and activism took off.
That's amazing. So, yeah, because I was telling you offline that you inspired me to start taking videos of when I inject because now I'm on a new um, injection for my Crohn's because I was on Cosentix for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time for my psoriatic arthritis, but it's not good for Crohn's.
Yeah.
So I had to switch, and that was a process in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really afraid of it because it's a very potent medication. Because you only take it, you do loading doses, but you only take it a few times a year after that because it's in the same, it's a what is it? Sorry, having really bad brain fog today.
I feel you.
Um, it's an interleukin. What do they call it? 26, whatever it's called.
I'm not
Um,
sure.
but
Yeah.
it's in the same class of medications as chemotherapy.
Okay.
So I was able to post a video about talking about it. I thought it. I just looked back at the post, and apparently it didn't show the injecting part like I thought it did. But I also showed like I did an update of myself, like just showing how because it knocked me out for hours because
Mm,
I knew I
yeah.
would be really tired. Again, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a chemotherapy drug.
Yeah. How it knocks you
Um,
out. Yeah.
Not that I've had chemotherapy, but I know people who've been on chemotherapy that it just knocks them out. And so I did an update on like, hey, this is what I'm feeling from it and everything. But yeah, you've inspired me just to show a different vulnerability and be like, hey, this is what you don't see behind the
Yeah.
scenes. Another thing I've kind of been toying with is I don't know if this happens to you, but in the shower, I lose a lot of hair
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
it's really sad a lot of the time. And like the other day, I was gonna take a picture, but I was like in a rush to get to the event I was going to. But like I had this huge clump of hair, and it made me so sad.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at my hair, you wouldn't think
Yeah.
that like I lost a lot of hair, but it's again, I just want to show um, people like the things they don't see and like
Yeah.
even and I haven't even shared this with some of my closest like friends or family members, but I just think it's just it's so nice being vulnerable, and that I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that is the only way we can grow in numbers and raise awareness is if we show the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so again, you've inspired me so much with that, and you're so humble for having, I think, what is it, 1 point something million followers on TikTok, and then
Oh
you
no, no,
have.
just 130,000, not millions.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I thought I saw a million, but
Oh
it
no,
said
no, no, that would be great.
yeah, but that was a lot. I mean, that's still a lot of followers. And then on Instagram too, you have so many followers.
Oh,
And
thank you.
um, but yeah, again, you're so humble and you're like, yeah, just DM me and we'll like,
Yeah, yeah,
figure
yeah. My
something
DMs are
out.
caught up. Anybody can
Yeah,
DM me.
yeah, exactly. And I just love that. And it's great that you're a personal trainer because I know a lot of people in our community also um, get frustrated that they can't work out. And I'm like one
Mm-hmm.
of those people. And I'm trying to find ways that I can do some sort of workout. And like, so
Mm-hmm.
you do show that. And I do also know that a lot of people in our community feel it's impossible, that they're never going to be able to work out. So, like, what would you tell people in the community who feel that way?
Yeah, I was that person. I was my doctors and my mom would be like, "You got to get back into working out again, like get back into fitness." And I was like, "I'm literally using a cane. How do you expect me to get
Right.
there?" And that was the reason why I decided to get into training. I saw a friend of mine who is my age working out online, and she has our right and was on methotrexate. So I DM'd her and I'm like, "How are you doing this? Like, how?" So I started staying consistent. She was my accountability buddy. And then I ended up meeting my best friend through an injection video. I was about to start Embrel. I typed in hashtag Embrel. I found my best friend Liv Lou. Her is at Move to Live. And she's a personal trainer. And I was like, I work out every day. I love fitness. And I want to help people move in a fun, safe way, regardless of limitation. And a lot of my friends were reaching out and they're like, "Can you train me?" And I was like, "I'm not certified." So Liv encouraged me during COVID. And when I got furloughed from my casting job, because I worked in TV and film, she was like, "You need to get certified." So I got certified. And then I started training my friends who have chronic illnesses. And the thing is, like I said earlier, a lot of people think we can't do that because of our limitations, because we can't move. But you can dance in your chair. If, like, for instance, I have lower body flares. So when I do, I can do upper body. But now, because of my chest pain, when I have upper body flares, which is quite frequent, I can't really work up. Like, I'm a personal trainer who can't do a push up. So, like a lot. And when I worked in the gym, I worked in the gym for 2.5 years, and I just left recently. If I said that to people, like, they would be like, I don't want you as a trainer. You can't do a push-up.
Right, right, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
right,
Like, you can't do a chest press. You can't do a pull-up. No, I can't. And a lot of the certifications in training, not a lot, but some of them, you have to physically do things. Like, you'll have to, like, kettlebell snatch and press and squat for a certain amount of minutes. And everybody at the gym had that but me. And I was like, I could be flaring that day. Like, I can't even do that now because I'll trigger a flare. I have nerve damage in my chest. I can't be overhead pressing that many. Like, that's not something I can do. And when I was applying to work at different gyms, if you're a trainer, you know this, you have to take a fitness class everywhere you apply. And the reason I found the gym I ended up working at was because no other gym offered modifications. They didn't even ask. So I have an invisible illness. I look fit on the outside, but I still need those modifications. You would think if I walked into a room, you'd be like, oh, yeah, she can do the 10 push-ups that we're about to do, or she can hold a barbell that we're about to do, not knowing I have arthritis in my fingers. And a lot of people get confused when I start doing push-ups on a wall, or when I have to lift 5-pound weights instead of like 20-pound. And so that's what bothered me the most. And I was like, as a trainer, I'm never going to assume anything. I'm always going to offer modifications. Even if nobody's going to take them, I'm going to put them out there, and I'm going to prove that you can move even if you don't get off the floor. If we need to sit on the floor the whole time, we can sit on the floor the whole time and move. That movement that you did with me for, 20 minutes to 45 minutes is better than doing nothing. So just be
right,
proud. Yeah, just be proud.
right.
Even if you go for a walk, be freaking proud of yourself. Even if you just put Beyonce on and danced in your chair, which is what I did many times, be freaking proud of yourself. Like, you moved. That's all that matters. And that's what fitness is moving and having fun. A lot of people don't think about that.
Right, right. No, I love that. And yeah, oh my God, don't even get me started on looks of, well, she doesn't look sick. I mean, and even
Yeah.
using a mobility aid, I've gotten so many looks like when I'm
Mm-hmm.
sporting a cane or whatever,
Yeah.
especially when I'm traveling. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, and then even with a handicap placard, that I
Yeah.
really get a lot of looks about,
Oh,
and they
yeah,
even
or the
got
fact
it.
that I never got one because I didn't think I needed it, and then there's one day where I can't walk in, like, the Publix parking lot, in the grocery store parking lot, and I'm like, "I wish I got it." Like, I wish I would have gotten it because now I can't get to the front, it's crazy. We, like, gaslight ourselves.
Right, right, right. Do you have one now?
No, I don't. I still need to order it.
Oh
See,
my,
I'm still putting it off.
just go through your primary care physician. I don't know how it works. And
In New York.
where's your home base?
New York.
Okay, New York.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works there, where your PCP is, but
Yeah.
my PCP like just wrote it, and I went through AAA actually because it was
Mhm.
faster than the DMV. And
Mhm.
again, I don't know how it works in New York because I know not everybody drives in New York.
Yeah,
But
I'm outside the city, so I drive.
right. And that makes sense when you're like, I couldn't find a parking spot, so I
Yeah.
don't know why I just said that. But
No, no,
anyways,
no.
um, but yeah, it's actually not a hard process
Yeah, that's good to know.
um compared to everything else that we go through. That's a
Mhm.
hard process.
Yeah, that's good
It's
to know.
actually one of the easier ones. And if you want, at least in California, I was told by the guy at AAA who helped me process my doctor's paperwork and everything. And at the time, he said I have arthritis and chronic fatigue syndrome. And I
Mhm.
thought they were going to give me issues because, like, okay, so what kind of
Yeah.
thing. I thought that would be the reaction, but he's like, okay, no, you're approved.
Yeah.
Um, he told me, like, it's a simple, like, just come back if you want the handicap license plate,
Mhm.
so that way you can have the placard, like, and give it to your husband at
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so you're always covered.
Yeah.
So that's another way to do it as well.
Oh, wow,
um
that's really good to know.
yeah, at least, and again, that's my experience in California, so everyone listening, don't quote me on that's how it works in
Yeah.
every state, because they don't know.
Mhm.
But compared to like fighting with our insurance companies and everything like that, it was and I thought it was going to be a very lengthy process. It was one of the easier processes because I got processes because I got it the same day. So,
Wow.
and California is usually pretty crazy and strict about that, and our DMVs suck. And I don't know if that's a national thing or not.
It's
But
national.
okay, all right, just making sure. But yeah, so yeah, because I had a temporary handicap placard, and I told my PCP because my orthopedic surgeon wasn't going to give me a permanent one. And I'm like, why not? I mean, this was when I got my hip replaced during COVID. And I think that 2021 is when I got my right hip replaced. And he's like, no, you'll be okay. Or what did he say? Not you'll be okay, but he said something to the um, effect of no, you're gonna do physical therapy and then you'll be fine, something like that. And I'm like, okay, but I still like have all these other issues. And so I went to my primary care physician, who's still my primary care physician, and he's like, no, I'll write you something because I think you do need it. And I'm like, I don't have energy sometimes to like walk that far, like, and I don't want to abuse the system, but like I need some help here. What would you recommend? And he's like, I'll write documentation for you to get, um, a permanent handicap placard. And then this was me at the time, like, oh, okay, so is it something like that we have to prove every day that we need, or not every day, every year to renew it? And he's like, no, once you're given one, you're given one. I'm like, oh, okay, good. But again, that's a way for our viewers and listeners that's a way that you can advocate for yourself, because I had one doctor telling me no, but like I know my body, and I'm not. This is, again, we look like we're fine, and that we have all the energy in the world, and that we might be abusing the system if we have a handicap placard. And so, like you said, we kind of gaslight ourselves, like, oh, it won't be like, because I remember having to use it for my grandfather when he had a walker. So it's just like, that's who you think about when you think handicap placard. But then I realized, no, this is something very beneficial for me, and I need it. Like I can't park far away. It's just, unfortunately, this is the hand I was dealt. And yeah, my hip is fine, but it's all the other issues that I have to deal with daily. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
again, and just having an open conversation, and that my primary care physician has been my doctor for like 10 years now, almost. But even if that's not the case, listeners and followers, it's okay. Or viewers, it's okay. Just, again, you have to have a conversation and know your body and advocate for yourself and everything like that. So yeah, just a little nugget of knowledge, Allie. And I'm sorry, I talk so much. You should have
No, I'd
listened
love to learn. Like, I
ahead of
learned
time.
so much.
Emmanuel knows this. He knows I talk so much, and he loves it and hates it all at the same time, right,
No, I
Emmanuel?
learn a ton.
Right.
Yeah, those staff meetings, they used to be like half an hour long, and then she joined them like an
Oh
hour
my
and a
gosh.
half just because she adds so much.
I love it. I love it.
But it's on topic. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
talking about like, oh, the Dodgers won, or whatever,
True.
like some random.
Yeah.
And it's also our director of education's fault, Nicole. She's not here. I always do that to her.
True.
And Emmanuel, sometimes it's you and I, because we're on the same, like, we're connected like
Mhm.
this, so we'll get an idea and we'll be like, this is so, this is, yeah,
Oh
let's go
yeah.
with that. So
I love that. I love you too.
Yeah.
I
Whenever something
have good stuff
interesting.
to say.
Yeah. I guess the only time I'm talking a lot is like when something interesting is happening, like with the laws or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I'm out there like half an hour straight just talking
Yeah, and
I
I'm
love
looking at
that.
my watch. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
about
Like,
Just
educate
kidding,
us.
Emmanuel. Just because yeah. Ali, I was gonna ask you something I noticed, and I noticed this with one of who was it? It was I've had two guests. It was Kim Possible, who is our scleroderma warrior, but she also has fibromyalgia. And then it was also one of our team members, Jasmine, who has fibromyalgia. And I don't know if you've noticed, I have fibro, so I'm kind of moving around a lot. I noticed you move around a lot, is it to offset pain, like
Yeah.
offset weight? Okay. I was
Yeah. So, well,
wondering
not
about that.
pain. Well, not pain. But yeah, I have to like keep moving, because my joints don't do well when I'm just like seated.
Right.
And yeah, so and I stretch like so I have to keep moving, stretch. My cat reminds me to do that as well. He's sitting on my
Uh,
lap, so that's good
aw.
too.
Right.
But yeah, no, it is for the pain. So like I have a hard time sitting for long periods. And that goes into people that like their jobs, like I have to keep moving. I can't sit all day. So yeah, yeah, I have to keep
Yeah,
moving.
so I noticed that because, like, for me, I call it the fibro, like, jiggle kind of
Oh,
thing.
I
And,
love
like,
that. The RA
yeah,
jiggle. I
so I
like
guess
that.
it's like, but I guess it could be the RA jiggle or
I
something like
like that.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Because, yeah, and when I pointed it out, I'm like, oh, do you guys want to wrap up or something? They're like, you're the first person to, like, notice that. And I
Yeah.
actually learned that from my late godmother who passed away. She had fibromyalgia and she had a very positive attitude, but she's like, and she was looking at me one day because I hadn't shared it with her that I had fibromyalgia because I didn't know she had it. And she's like, do you have fibromyalgia? I'm like, yeah, actually, I just got diagnosed. Why do you ask? And she's like, cause you're kind of moving around a lot.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you in pain? And I'm like, yeah, how did you know that? And she's like, yeah, people with fibromyalgia, or chronic pain will do that a lot just to offset the weight,
Yep. Yep.
of that area that's hurting. So I was just curious,
I
if
love that you noticed. That's
yeah,
so cute. I love
yeah,
that. It's just like we all have this connection, like you just get it.
right. I try, see, Emmanuel, again, it wasn't lying. We're best friends.
We are best
Allie and
friends.
I,
We
yeah,
know.
we'll be
Hmm.
BFFs now. But because I have noticed that jiggle, did you want to wrap up, or is there like anything else you'd love to talk about or share, or
I don't think so. I'm trying to think. I think like what I want to share and leave off with is that like if you're listening and you do feel so alone, my number one piece of advice, and everybody always asked what my number one piece of advice is in my DMs, and I'm like, it's connection, like connecting with somebody who gets it. Like if I'm having a hard day, Ashley, I could DM you and be like, this is how I feel. And you'll be like, I get it. And Emmanuel, you'll be like, I get it. Like if I'm having a day I need to take off work, and I'll be like, hey guys, like I feel so bad I have to take off work. But you guys would be like, I get it. Like we understand. Like and it's a good reminder to have these friends because they remind you it's okay to take it easy. Because even though we're chronically ill, we still try to live like everybody else, We still try to work like everyone. We try to socialize with everyone, especially because we're young adults, that we forget, even though we're in pain, we do forget that we need to take it easy. So like my friends will remind me it's okay. The other day on Friday, I was having a really bad, like, I take injections. So I was having a really bad hangover, or it was last Thursday. And I slept from 1 p.m. to 5:30, and I felt so bad that I did that. Like I kept apologizing to my mom. I kept apologizing to my therapist whose session I had to cancel. And I just kept apologizing. And my friends were like, it's okay to take it. Your body was telling you it needs to sleep. So it's okay. So my piece of advice is to connect with somebody that gets it. Get your community, get your close friends, and let them know when you need help, or if you just need to vent, because the venting is so important. We can't be positive all the time. You see me making funny videos, but I also vent to my friends at the same time, and I vent on Instagram as well. So yeah, so find your community, find your people, because it's so important. So I do want to just say that as well.
yeah, no, I love that. And also I think, um, also for people who are like newly diagnosed and have
Mm-hmm.
nowhere where to start, like just
Yeah.
just reach out, because we've all been there.
Yeah.
I started a support group on Facebook just for people because I've been a part of other support groups just that are very, specific to like psoriatic arthritis or fibro or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And it was funny. I was actually gaslit in a fibro support group, and I can't remember what they said. They had said that there was no way that I had all the illnesses that I had. And
Oh
I'm
my
like, you know what?
God.
This isn't the group for me, but
No.
thanks so much because you're wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I started my own group, and I just wanted it because I felt there were so many rules for people. And I felt like, and they wouldn't ever let you say, hey, I did something like this. Follow me on social media. I want to share this with you. And it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted it. So I started a support group where I'm like, we're more than our illnesses.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to be like, hey, I did this week and please follow me. Or, hey, I'm starting a new business. Can you support me in any way you can?
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted people to feel like they're able to do that, because I always like saying we're more than our illness. It
Hmm.
doesn't define us, and we do everything we can to fake being well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I totally agree with what you said, 100%. And so I know, I haven't watched your most recent video, but I remember, I can't remember when it was, but you were talking about how you were ending your methotrexate journey on Instagram, and so you're on Enbrel now. Is that it?
I was on Enbrel. I'm now on a drug called Orencia, but
Okay.
I've been on methotrexate tablets, injections, Enbrel injections, um, Humira injections, Remicade infusions, and now, yeah, Orencia injections, and Plaquenil and Rinvoq.
Are those all? Oh, you've been on Rinvoq. That would be if my Skyrizi wasn't approved, I would go on Rinvoq.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, as a second choice. But my rheumatologist really wanted me to be on Skyrizi, and
Yep.
I don't know if you saw in my video, but I always make fun of the commercials that they show,
Yes.
and I'm
Oh
like,
my
well, and
God.
that's my way of coping, because I'm like, oh, well, and I said this in my video, for Skyrizi, the one they keep showing is sailing and then eating like
Hmm.
a kebab on the beach or something, and I'm like, okay, once I take Skyrizi, you'll see me sailing.
Ashley, got to hit the sales.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then, eating a kebab on the beach.
Yeah.
And then um, Emmanuel's going to laugh at this because we had an episode where we talked about this, but I always laugh at the side effects that they talk about,
Oh
because
my
they're like,
God.
there may be sudden death. And so I'm like, well, after you've died, call your doctor, because I just feel like, do you remember that, Emmanuel? When I
It's
said
just
that?
so
You don't remember that? It
ridiculous.
was the name of one of the episodes, or you quoted me on it or something.
Oh
Look back on our
yeah.
page.
Oh,
Yeah,
I remember it slightly.
because it came out of nowhere and you were just like, what did you just say?
Yep.
Because it
Yep.
feels that way sometimes. Like,
It
it's just
does.
like, I laugh at the side effects, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to feel just as crappy without it. So,
Yep.
bring it on, kind of thing. And it's interesting you call it a hangover, because that's how it feels, even though I've never really been like a big drinker, but you feel so
Yeah.
foggy and tired, and just you can't do much. And
Yeah.
yeah, I too feel guilty about sleeping the day away
Hmm.
sometimes. But you know what? I've realized this is what our bodies need, and we have to be kind to them, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I hate canceling plans too sometimes, but if that's
Yeah.
what we have to do, that's what we have to do. And yeah, my friends have been very supportive and understanding about that, and same with my family. Although recently, I don't know if your family is okay with this, or do you refer to yourself as sick, or how do you guys refer to yourself?
I just refer as chronically ill and then also
Okay.
a spoonie as well.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I was because I know some warriors say that they're a warrior, and
Yeah.
some call themselves sick, and so I guess I've been saying that a lot more recently about
Mm.
being like sick. And my mom was like, "Why are you saying that? Like, you're not sick." And I'm like, "But I am. Like, I'm never
Yeah.
gonna be 100%." And she's like, "You've been saying that a lot recently." And I'm like, well, but it's kind of the truth, and like, she doesn't like it, so maybe I should,
Yeah.
not just for her, but maybe I should change the rhetoric to, well, I'm chronically ill. I
Yeah.
mean,
But we're
both
sick
are
too. Like, I
both are
do go
true.
back and forth with sick and chronic illness, I think. Like, I
Right,
joke that I'm sick. I'm like, yeah, I'm just chronically sick and ill.
right,
Yeah.
right. And then yeah, some people are like, they like that I have a sense of humor, but they're also like, how can you have a sense of humor when you're gonna get and I don't know if you know this, I've had 28 surgeries to date in the last 4 years. Yeah, most of them joint related. But they're like, how can you be so positive and have such a sense of humor? I'm like, honestly, that's how I've gotten through it, and it's a very morbid sense of humor, and that is
That's
also
me.
a positive thing I've gotten through working in healthcare. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if someone doesn't want to take their medication, I'll take it for you, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or my favorite thing that I've been saying, and I still mean this, I haven't traveled through an airport yet with my knee replacement or my hip replacement, so I can't wait to go through
The metal
TSA and
detector.
see
Yeah.
how that goes. So, like, I'm looking forward to that the most because they're gonna have to warn me, and if they don't put me through like the X-ray machine
They'll be
or
like, "Ma'am, stop. What are you carrying on you?"
right, exactly. And I'm like, well, let's see. I have 4 screws in my
Just
hip
gonna go
and I
through
think
all the
4 in
joints.
my knee. Yeah. So, but apparently it's not supposed to make it go off, but who
Mm,
knows?
it probably will.
Yeah. So I tell everyone, or if I ever have to use my walker, I'm like, yeah, I'll learn the dance. I don't know if you know Mel Brooks, but with the producers, they do a walker dance.
Oh my
Um,
God,
and
no, but I
so
must see it.
yeah, so I'm just like, I'll learn my walker dance, something like that. So, but I do have to start making funny videos like you
Yes.
like you do,
It
because
helps. It honestly helps the
yeah,
pain, like to make funny videos.
right, exactly, and it just helps you feel better in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it just shows people how we cope, and it's
Yeah.
okay to be that way.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and during this Disability Pride Month too, I think like why it yeah, I used to be sad that this was all happening. And
Mm-hmm.
even up until recently, I was like, why me? And
Yeah. Why me?
I still have that sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when I'm just having a hard day.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Yeah. Um, but, I also take pride in this because it's given me such a platform, and that's thanks to Emmanuel, actually. Even though he hates when I give him credit because he's very humble as well,
Aw.
because of the WAAA organization and Emmanuel giving me this platform to be able to connect with fellow Spoonies and to be able to advocate for others.
Yeah.
Is very rewarding and it helps. And like you said, we have such a community. And I think I had somebody say, I can't remember where it was, they didn't like the word community, so they called it "This is our family" instead. And they didn't like being called a spoonie either. I think they said forks or something. And
Oh.
I couldn't remember what they said, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you a spoonie. That's just
Yeah.
how I know that it's related to, but I don't know. They
Yeah.
looked at it differently, and I forgot their reason. And I'm not putting them down in any way because
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
if they're in the support group I created, and I don't want them to get offended.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting, even through our community family, how people interpret it
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so sorry. I know that we were wrapping up and I went on that
It's
tangent.
all good.
But yeah. But Emmanuel, was there anything else that you wanted to add or anything?
I have nothing else, but I guess yeah, I just want to thank you again for coming on here and sharing your story. You know, a lot of times, especially when it's like a whole podcast, can be kind of like typical or kind of daunting to kind of bare your soul to the entire audience or whatever. But obviously, you were very willing to do so, and I just want to thank you for that and for really helping us spread awareness about this because this really helps, I think, a lot of people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for teaching me all the stuff that I didn't know about and these laws. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we're working on it too. But yeah, hopefully the time has come where change to um, the laws can happen. I just happened to watch The Basis of Sex yesterday, the
Hmm.
story about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. There was a quote or there was something she had said, like, you know, um, like the time has come to change or not
Hmm.
change the laws, but the times have changed.
Yeah.
So the laws need to change like
Yes.
accordingly. Or she said something like that, and I'm like, that is so true. And it made me think of our work, Emmanuel, especially. But then again, everybody who's an advocate in one way or the other.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Allie, we are so honored that you came on and so grateful. And again, I've gained a friend. We've gained a friend from this, and
Yes.
again, it's just great that we're all advocates and we're, growing in numbers in advocacy work and everything like that. And so
Yeah.
we're so honored to have you, and thank you so much for sharing um, your story. And like Emmanuel said, just being vulnerable and just being your authentic self, but that's your best self, as you and I were talking about offline and then earlier in this podcast too. And yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much. So
Thank
again,
you.
remember to follow Allie at, I'm sorry, I'm blinking on
It's
your,
okay. It's another day with RA.
there you go. Okay, I thought that's what it was. Didn't want to mess it up. But yeah, please remember to follow her. She's amazing. Her
Oh, thank you.
videos are so cool. And as you can tell, she's an amazing, beautiful person. So yeah, and also remember to follow us at chronic.convos, as well as WAAA on Instagram. And we also have a lot of other hashtags that we're coming up with in terms of Instagram handles, right, Emmanuel? Do you want to list the other ones, because, or some of them are still in progress,
Well, oh, there's AutoAware, of course.
right?
And then there's Autoimmune Alliance, which I guess is
Right.
going to be our 501c3 thing.
Yeah,
That's not really
AutoAware
written.
is our education, and
Hmm.
Autoimmune Alliance is what this is going to fall under, more for the advocacy work part of it.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
guess.
but that's
That's
in
the simplest
process.
way to put it, yeah.
And then we do have TikTok, but I need to be better at uploading videos to it for chronic
Yeah,
combos.
yeah.
But I think Allie will maybe be able to help me with that. She looks like she is biting at the chomping at the bit to help me with that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm
Just
about to
to,
go make 3 TikToks right after this. So,
hey,
yep.
there you go. Okay. Oh, also, we should take a picture of us being on
Yes.
here. Maybe we can do that after we stop recording, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to always remember to do that. But yes, but for now, please follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcast, as well as YouTube on Chronic Convos. So thank you so much again, Allie, for everything. Really appreciate it. So
Thank
I'm
you.
Ashley, your host, and I'm also with my co-host.
Emmanuel
There you
Sessignon.
go. Okay, glad you're
I had
listening
an
this
opening
time.
there. Okay, nice.
Yeah. And everyone, thank you again for listening, and for all of our warriors out there. Hopefully, you're having a relatively low symptom day today, and just keep fighting, and reach out if you ever need anything. So, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right. And how do I stop recording? Okay, there.